Hello guys, how are you?
I'm Hardeep Singh. Welcome back to your own YouTube channel. IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test, and speaking, you got guesswork. Please, guys, participate in everyday listening and reading practice test to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Press the bell icon for the upcoming notifications. Don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams.
Part 1. You'll hear a student asking for advice on how to open a bank account. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 7. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 7. Hello, how can I help you?
Hi. I'd like to open a bank account, please. I think I've got all the documents I need with me.
OK, certainly. Now, are you a student here at the university?
Yes, I am. I've just started.
Right, well that means we can offer you our student package.
Could you explain exactly what that is, please?
Yes, of course. Well, basically, it's a current account with an instant overdraft facility of £500. After 6 months, we'll review that, and what usually happens if there haven't been any problems is we increase it to £1,000, and you can keep the overdraft for as long as you're a student.
That sounds good. Can I just ask a question about that, though?
Fire away.
Well, if I go overdrawn, am I charged? I mean, do I have to pay a fee?
No, it's an interest-free overdraft. As long as you're not overdrawn more than £500, there's no fee, and you're not charged interest. If you go more overdrawn than that, though, then of course you will be charged.
I see. Thanks. And do I get a cash point card and things like that?
Yes, absolutely. We'll give you a card for the cash machine with your own PIN code, and if you want one, you can also have a checkbook and check guarantee card.
Well, I'm not sure I need one, to be honest. Not many people use cheques anymore these days, do they?
Well, they can be useful for paying rent and things like that if you don't want to carry lots of cash with you.
True. Maybe it is a good idea to have one. What about a credit card?
Well, we don't offer a credit card as part of this package, but you can apply for one separately. I'll give you the form in a minute.
OK, thanks. So, what do I need to do to open the account?
Well, you need to give me some information and also deposit at least £180 into the account to start off. Do you have that much money on you right now?
Yes, I do.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 8 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 8 to 10. OK, great. So the only thing I need is some identification.
I've got my passport with me. Will that do?
Well, not really, to be honest, because it doesn't show your address and it doesn't show you're registered as a student. What we really need is your student ID card and either an official university letter with your current address on it or an electricity bill or something like that. Anything that shows where you're staying.
OK. Well, here's my university ID card.
Super.
And I've got this letter here from the Student Accommodation Service, showing which flat I'm in this year. Will that do?
Yes, that's perfect. I'll make a couple of photocopies of those in a moment, if you don't mind.
No problem.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
You'll hear a woman chairing a meeting of her local community centre. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
Hello everyone and welcome to the second meeting of the Howchester Community Centre Association. Now, as there are quite a few people here tonight who weren't at the first meeting last month, I think I should start by recapping what was decided last time, what our goals are, and what we need to do tonight. So, let's start with our goals. Well, the main aim is to get a community centre built here in the village. We're a large village with a population of nearly 3,000, as you know, and it's become pretty clear over the last few years that we need some extra facilities. The village hall is over 100 years old. It's in a very bad state of repair, and there really isn't anywhere to have large functions or events in a nice setting. So, what we're proposing is that we draw up plans for a community centre that, ideally, would have a large function room with a stage for the Howchester players to put on productions, and, of course, a dressing room backstage for the actors to get into their costumes. A fitness centre, a sports hall, catering facilities, and 2 or 3 meeting rooms. Of course, we'll refine our ideas over the coming months, and what the centres actually like will partly depend on where it's built, but that's the main idea. Now, the plan is to apply for grants from the Lotteries Commission and the local council, but to do that, we'll have to become a charity. So, one of our immediate goals is to write a constitution, elect a board, and apply to the Charities Commission for charitable status. When we're legally recognised as a charity, we can start applying for funds. The second main thing we have to do is raise money. Hopefully, if we manage to get grants, a lot of the building costs will be covered by those, but we're still going to need to raise quite a lot of money for the initial stages. Just one example, we'll have to pay an architect to draw up the initial plans, and that'll cost several £1,000s. So, it's major fundraising activities for the next year or so. Hopefully, we'll have a lot of fun doing it, though, so it won't all be hard work.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 16 to 20.
And in fact, we've got our very first event planned for Saturday the 24th of March. Arthur Treby has kindly said we can use his barn, so we'll be holding a barn dance which should attract several hundred people, we hope. We've still got to work out the details. In fact, that's one of the things we have to do tonight. But if we charge £3 per person, we should make several £100 profit. Let's hope so. Before we come on to talk about that, though, we said last time that I would chair this meeting until we elect temporary officers who'll draw up the Constitution. Once we've got the Constitution, we'll then have a second election to elect the permanent officers. By permanent, I mean they'll keep their posts for a year. So, what we'll do in a few minutes is hold an election. The positions we need to fill are chairperson, secretary, and treasurer. I'm happy to stand for the position of chair, but if anyone else wants to stand, I won't be offended in the slightest. So please feel free. The chairperson basically will lead the meetings and try to keep everyone on track. The secretary will have to keep minutes of each meeting and read them out at the start of the next meeting. So it's probably a good idea if the secretary is good at taking notes and typing things up on a computer. The treasurer will be responsible for opening our bank account and keeping a record of all income and expenditure, so please don't put yourself forward if you hate dealing with money and figures. Now, even if you don't want to be an elected officer, there are still lots of things you can do, and I really do hope you all come to meetings regularly from now on. They'll be here on the first Thursday of each month. And remember, everyone's opinion counts, and everyone's ideas are useful. So, if you have any thoughts on anything, please don't hesitate to speak up. Now, I've been talking for far too long, so why don't we get down to business and elect the temporary officers?
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 27.
Come in, everyone. The office might be a bit crowded with 4 of us and all these materials. There's coffee over there, help yourselves. Now, we're here to discuss 3 types of learners: kinesthetic, visual, and auditory, and how we can teach each type. I gave each of you one of them to consider. Jack, can we look at yours first, please? You were assigned to kinesthetic learners, weren't you?
Yes, I was. The first idea I had was using gestures, particularly finger gestures. Teachers can use them to emphasize stress on certain syllables. They can also use their fingers to write words in the air, spelling out the letters. The second thing is that the teacher can use the board. The teacher can ask students to spell words by going to the board and writing them up. The teacher could also ask students to write a letter each, in order. The teacher could put a poster on the board and students could go to the board with labels and label it as directed by the teacher. Another possibility is to ask students to organize words into categories on the board.
Good. The important thing is to keep kinesthetic learners active, moving. Games are good for them. Jack, did you think of any?
Yes, Helen. I thought of a couple. One is like charades. Divide the students into 2 or 3 teams. Give the students on one team some words and ask them to act them out. For example, if the word is cold, a student might shiver. The other teams have to guess the words.
Good idea. Simple but effective. Well done. Tina? Well, I was asked to think about teaching visual learners. Flashcards are good in my opinion. The students can guess words from seeing part of the flashcard, which can be a word or a picture. Or the teacher can show students the flashcards very quickly. Maybe that's how flashcards got their name. Flashcards can also have different background colours depending on which part of speech they are. Noun, verb, adjective, adverb, etc. Students could also learn from their peers by highlighting words they don't know, in a text for example, then helping each other with unknown words.
I know a good game for visual learners. Make a set of cards, half with words on and half with pictures. The cards are face down and students can turn over 2 at a time. If the word and picture match, they keep the cards. If they don't, they turn them face down again and the next student tries.
Great idea. Visual learners are often good at categorizing words. Each page in the student's notebook refers to a category of words. Students write new words on the correct page in their notebook for faster recall. For example, page 1 might be food, and page 2 could be telephone phrases. Spider diagrams are good too. Yes, they are.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 28 to 30.
Helen, you were assigned auditory learners.
OK, I had these ideas for teaching auditory learners. First, they could listen to a dictation and draw what they hear. For example, students listen to the teacher describing items of furniture and then draw them in the appropriate rooms of the house. Or the teacher could describe a picture. After the description, the teacher and students can see whose picture was closest to the original. Flashcards can also be used. Each student gets a flashcard and they hold up their card when they hear that word or phrase in a song, poem or story. Another way of using them is to go around the class, with each student adding a sentence to a story, including the word on their flashcard.
Auditory learners can also learn using songs and music. Any suggestions? The teacher could give the students a text of a song, the lyrics with some words replaced by a rhyming word. Students then listen to the song and make corrections. That's a really good idea. Perfect for auditory learners. Well, thank you for your suggestions. I have a few other ideas you might consider.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
You will hear a lecture on note-taking. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Welcome to this class on note-taking. Let's take a look at the basics first of all. The first question we need to look at is, why take notes? The purpose of taking notes during a lecture is to help you to concentrate on what the speaker is saying and to provide you with a summary in note form so that you can write up your notes in full later. Also, it may be that the notes provided by the lecturer are not sufficient. The lecturer may add new information during the lecture, and your own notes will be needed to provide you with a complete record of the lecture. Taking your own notes will promote a deeper understanding of the content of the lecture. So, how do you take notes? The general principle in note-taking is to reduce the language by shortening words and sentences. The following advice will help you to take notes efficiently, leaving you free to listen to your lecturer. Remember that these notes are for you, and as such you can use any method you like, so long as it enables you to reproduce the ideas contained in the notes and show how these ideas connect to each other later. However, there are certain principles you should bear in mind, and certain conventions that are commonly used, which you may find useful. First of all, you must be able to determine what you need to write down. What is important to you? How do you know what is important and what is not? This is not an easy question to answer, but there are things you can look out for. The first piece of information you receive is the title of the lecture. This is perhaps the most important single piece of information of the whole lecture, so you should make sure that you write it down in full. Even better, find out what it is beforehand so that you can have time to think about what the lecture will be about. Secondly, listen for direct or indirect signals from the lecturer that tell you what is important. As a direct signal, for example, he or she may say, "This is important, write it down," or "Make sure you get this down," or he or she may make indirect signals such as pausing before saying something important, or saying it slowly, loudly, or with greater stress. Listen for repetition. When the lecturer repeats a point, go back to your first notes and add in any new details or information. When a teacher or lecturer recommends a student to read a book, it's usually for a particular purpose. The book may contain useful information about the topic being studied, or it may be invaluable for the ideas or views that it puts forward, and so on. In many cases, the teacher doesn't suggest that the whole book should be read. In fact, he may just refer to a few pages which have a direct bearing on the matter being discussed. Now, how should you write your notes? As mentioned above, you can make notes in any way that you like, but the following guidelines will help you to develop a style that is both quick and accurate. Concentrate on the important ideas. Avoid repetition and omit things that do not need to be stated specifically, because only you yourself will be reading the notes, and you will know what they are referring to. Summarize important ideas. You can use words that are not used by the lecturer to restate in a shorter form what he or she is saying. Write in short phrases rather than in complete sentences. Many students ask me when they should write up their notes. You might not have time to note down everything you want during the lecture itself, so you must rewrite them as soon as possible, so that you minimize the risk of forgetting something. Finally, you should decide on a personal note-taking style and be willing to adapt according to whom you are listening. For more practice in note-taking, take a look at these books which can be found in the resource room. Study Listening by Tony Lynch, particularly Units 6 and 12. Then there's Learning to Study English by Brian Heaton and Don Dunmore, especially Units 5 and 10. The first one is published by Cambridge University Press, and the second one is published by Oxford University Press.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
So guys, don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page. IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test and speaking, you got guesswork. Please guys, participate in everyday new IELTS listening and reading practice tests to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. For more IELTS material, visit my official website www.ieltsupdatesandrecentexams.com. The link is given below in the description. If you need PDF files of latest IELTS material, then please join my Telegram channel. So guys, please write your score below the comment section. Again, thanks for listening. God bless you all guys. Stay tuned, stay safe.